audience. Welcoming everyone to another facts driven episode of the T3 podcast series, Bolder Voices, Better Insights, which brings to you the thought provoking viewpoints of the souls behind big names and even bigger transformations of the travel and tourism industry. Today, we have with us a visionary personality who, apart from playing a prominent leadership role in the Indian tourism industry, has also represented at various global industry forums. Well, starting his journey with Air India, he now takes pride of his role being the president of Travel Agents Federation of India, the chief executive of Nomad Travels India, and the founding president of International Institute for Peace Through Tourism. So, without any further delay, this is Kuhelika Roy Chaudhary from Travel Trends Today. Welcome Mr. Ajay Prakash for today's interaction, and let's learn some unexplored aspects of the Indian travel, tourism, and trade industry, and even beyond. Hello, Mr. Prakash.
Hello, Kuhelika. Thank you to T3 for giving me this opportunity to express my views on this episode, and I look forward to an interesting conversation with you. So, without further ado, let's proceed.
That's a very positive opening statement for the audience already. So, Mr. Prakash, one of the buzz statements that is gained really, the optimum attention in the global industry is that India is steadily and speedily moving towards full recovery. So, I think the full recovery in outbound travel is expected to take place by 2024. So, Mr. Prakash, what is the ground reality? How actually is the scenario looking like according to you?
I think we've been very not only fortunate but also constructive in the way we've tackled the pandemic and the recovery post-pandemic. So India is one of the countries that has recovered the quickest, and I think a large part of this is due to the fact that we are a very resilient people innately. We know how to tighten our belts when the times are not right, and to work towards restoring normalcy as soon as we possibly can. So, if you look at outbound, I would say we're almost at about 80 to 85% of where we were pre-pandemic, which is a remarkable achievement.
Absolutely.
It's been a very those were 2 tough years. But I think the trade bounced back and did it without any direct help from the government. Unlike many other countries which got bailouts, we got nothing. And yet the industry survived. So I'd say we're doing all right. And I think we should be heading towards even surpassing the pre-pandemic levels by the end of this year or early next year. Inbound, of course, is a different story. But where outbound is concerned, the growth has been very robust.
Oh, that's great to learn, Mr. Prakash. But then the audience, I'm sure, would already like to know what are the gaps or the untapped areas where the inbound and the outbound potential, to be precise, outbound potential of India has not been explored yet. What is the required strategy to move ahead to grow more exposure towards the Indian outbound sphere?
Traditionally, we have had 3 times the number traveling out as compared to the number that has been coming in. So inbound, outbound has been like, is a 2.6, 2.7 to 1. And the growth has been driven very largely from the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities, because that's aspirational travel. And because there was such a pent-up demand over the last 2 years, I think we saw people getting out there, getting ready to travel. We did encounter certain challenges, and not all of them have been overcome. The first, of course, was the fact that airlines did not restore full capacity, and therefore the airfares have become very, very high. They're sometimes as much as twice what they used to be in 2019 for certain destinations. And the other challenge was the backlog, the logjam of visas. As you know, the US, UK, Canadian, and all the Schengen countries, huge backlogs.
Truly.
Um,
Yes.
so if we need to look at outbound, we need to look at, promotions in the smaller cities. Of course, the Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Chennai, Bangalore. These continue to be big gateways. But it's the smaller cities where I think a greater emphasis is needed if we really want to promote outbound tourism. And we'll come to the other roadblocks in outbound in a while. But I think that would be the starting point. And you will see that even the foreign tourist boards have realized where the traffic is originating from, and therefore you see them doing road shows in the smaller cities, which earlier they were not doing.
Truly,
so that's where the growth is going to come from, and that's what is going to drive the market.
So, Mr. Prakash, just right the point that you have mentioned now. I mean, post-pandemic, I think India has been on the spotlight for tourism with its diverse composition of market segments. So, with attracting global attention now, even more prominently after pandemic, it is on the hit list. I mean, various destinations are also shifting their strategies with, more focus on gaining traction from India. And also positively, India is expected to be the second largest tourism source market after China. So what has been the reality, and how are you looking at the scenario?
Look, the whole world is wooing the Indian tourist. China closed down and hasn't really opened fully even as yet. We've already surpassed China in terms of population numbers. We are the most populous country in the world today.
Yes.
Which has its positives and its downside as well. However, where the market is concerned, everybody looks at this big numbers, and everybody wants to be wooing the Indian tourist.
Yes.
The challenge that we're going to face is this latest huge roadblock that the government of India has placed on outbound tourism. A 20% tax collection at source.
Yes.
Now that is, it just goes contrary to everything that serves to promote tourism. Yes, I can understand that the government would like to curb the outflow of foreign exchange, would like to encourage greater domestic tourism, would like to encourage greater inbound tourism. But we have to understand that tourism is a two-way street.
Yes, indeed.
Barring small countries which only have inbound. I mean, let's talk the island nations. Let's talk places like Bhutan, where there is more inbound. I mean, there's hardly any outbound from these places. But a country as large and as diverse and as populous as India needs to support tourism in both directions. Airlines need traffic in both directions. And at the end of the day, when you talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, your young people need to travel out, see the world, and discover that it is indeed Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that the world is one. So we had made a representation to the government as TAFI, as well as through FAITH, which is the umbrella association of associations within the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry. And we had very strongly represented that this would be a big stumbling block. Unfortunately, that plea of ours has gone unheeded, and therefore I see tough times for outbound tourism, because what it does is it also places the Indian agent or tour operator at a disadvantage vis-a-vis an overseas entity. Number one, those entities do not pay GST to start with. So there's already a 5% bias, which we had learned to live with.
Yes.
But with a 20% TCS, which you don't need to pay if you book through a kayak or an Expedia, or go and pay directly at the hotel, that's a big body blow. So that's going to be a challenge, and let's see how the market reacts to that come July, because that's the middle of the outbound season.
Yes. So, Mr. Prakash, as you have mentioned about government's role in influencing outbound travel, so how actually are you seeing the Indian government playing its role in prioritizing the tourism industry? How well it is doing? It's favoring the industry.
So I do believe that the government can do much more and needs to do much more if it is serious about harnessing the full potential of the travel and tourism industry for the economic upliftment of this entire population.
I think that's a very important remark from your side, Mr. Prakash. I think the audience has a very motivating spirit to learn upon and to, I think, really think upon this time. And moving forward, I think from the cross section of the industry as well, if we dig deeper, what is the industry's reaction? I mean, what are the changes in the travel agents' attitude that have occurred in selling outbound tour packages after all these circumstances? What is the reaction, Mr. Prakash?
So we'll find out soon enough what the impact of the TCS is going to be on outbound. But at the same time, I think that we will have to find. I mean, the industry has to survive. Travel is going to grow. There's no two ways about it. People do want an experiential travel. They want to discover new places. They want bragging rights. They want to put it on Instagram. They want to put it on Facebook. So people will travel. What will change is perhaps the choice of destination.
Yes.
The short-haul destinations, the destinations that permit you to travel either with a visa on arrival, or a country like Kazakhstan, which suddenly said, okay, visa-free travel for Indians. So this is going to determine the choice of destinations.
Yes.
And the industry will also need to look at where do we find the right segment for the right sort of traveler. For the first-time traveler, maybe, Dubai and Singapore and Bali and Mauritius, all these could be the first-time destinations. So the agent or the tour operator needs to equip herself or himself with better knowledge, better use of technology. Now, ChatGPT suddenly, became the buzzword everywhere.
Absolutely.
And people said, oh, this will replace the travel agent. I mean, I've been hearing this for the last 20 years when commission cuts first came in, and people said, oh, the travel agent is dead. No, the travel agent is not dead.
Can never be.
People have discovered the perils of unassisted online bookings. It looks great. I mean, I'm standing at the airport counter in Mumbai, checking in for this flight to Germany. The persons next to me are shocked because suddenly they're told they need to pay 28,000 rupees for their bags. Why? Because when they booked online, they didn't see that the fare that they got so cheap had no checked-in baggage. So people discover these things, the hard way. And then they come back and say, no, I better talk to, my travel agent. So people will need the agent, but the agent needs to equip herself or himself with the latest knowledge, because information is available. The question is, how do you interpret that information? How do you structure it to create the most cost-effective and the most interesting and the most exciting package for your traveler? So that's where the upskilling or the reskilling is needed. And to do that, on the TAFI website, which we've just revamped very recently, we've put up 150 plus courses for our members. Once they log in, they can access these courses. Some of them are soft skills. Some of them are courses specifically pertaining to the travel requirements. There are destination knowledge modules. So all this we're doing so that our members are at least better equipped to handle the new age traveler who is very demanding. and very well researched. They do all the research and then come to you. So you better know at least a little more than they know.
Mr. Prakash, you have mentioned here about the new age traveler. So I want to know a little bit on the consumer side as well. What are the changes in preferences or the shift in mindset that has happened pre and post pandemic, during this 3 years? What are the changes that you have observed in the industry from the consumer perspective?
Couple of things, one is that people are a little more spontaneous. If there's a short break available over a weekend, I mean, they'll do it if they can do it. Provided, of course, everything else falls into place. The tickets are affordable, the visa is available, whatever. So that's one thing that has changed, spontaneous, short trips. The other is family. I mean, we've always been a nation where people travel as families. You often have 3 generations traveling together. So what people discovered during that time was that if you cannot meet your loved ones, there's a sense of deprivation. So when you have the opportunity, you will find that people will travel with families. And then they'd rather look at, Airbnbs or a villa or something like that, rather than a hotel. So alternative accommodations, alternative destinations have seen an uptick. And apart from that, of course, there's the high spending segment, which is looking for very exotic, very unusual vacations. So it could be, a trip to the Antarctic. It could be a trip on a South Pole icebreaker. People are looking at those, Indian travelers are looking at those things as well, which a few years ago was unheard of. So safety, affordability to make your rupee go as far as you possibly can, and quality experiences rather than merely sightseeing, take pictures, come back and show them. No, I think people have become a little more discerning in the kind of holidays that they want. The other trend, and it's really not as big as we would like it to be, is the shift towards a more sustainable sort of tourism.
Yes.
Now that is talked about more than it is practiced, because people are willing to say, yes, I would like to take a sustainable vacation in a sustainable destination with a sustainably certified tour operator, but they're not always willing to pay for it because these things. So this will take time, but at least the seed has been sown that there is no planet B for mankind. And if you abuse nature, she will strike back.
Definitely.
So I think people have realized that. A few years ago when you were in Goa, you went out in the morning to stroll on the beach and you had hundreds of plastic water bottles being washed back.
Yes.
Now I think there is some change in these attitudes. People do realize that if you throw garbage into the sea will throw that garbage back at you.
Yes.
That realization is coming in, and it's important that the younger generation be made more aware of these things, because finally it's going to be their world. So these are some of the trends that have slowly developed. Let's hope some of this goes further and people do actually begin to look at travel as not just a getaway and fun experience, but also as something that helps to connect people better, make us more accepting. Tolerant is not a good word. Accepting of each other, even with the differences that we might have in terms of what we wear, what we eat, our customs, our religion. But travel teaches you that the differences that seem to divide us pale into insignificance before all the commonalities that we all share as humankind. So that's another part of travel that I would like to see being brought into the mainstream. And that's where, the IIPT, the International Institute for Peace Through Tourism, which is a 37-year-old body, also affiliated to the UNWTO, in which I represent in India. That's one of our missions, to make people aware and the industry aware, so that the knowledge can percolate down to their customers, of the power of tourism as a force for good. Because it's founded on just two very simple premises. One, that tourism, which is one of the biggest industries, we account for 10% of global GDP. We account for 1 in 10 people being employed. Every new 10 jobs that are created, 4 of them are created in the tourism industry.
Yes.
So that tourism could become the first global peace industry. And second, which is even more significant, is that every tourist is potentially an ambassador for peace. That's all it's based on. And that's what we try to do, get greater awareness out into the world about the force of tourism, about the power of tourism as a force for good.
Thank you, Mr. Prakash, for such warm words. I think the audience are truly mesmerized to listen at these motivating, perspectives from you. But then, thank you for bringing out the context of green tourism at this point of the conversation. I would like to know more about it. Where are we right now in terms of green tourism, and what are the areas that we need to explore in green tourism? I mean, what is the roadmap ahead, and how are we contributing currently?
The government is talking seriously about green tourism, about sustainable tourism. Now that we have the presidency of the G20 for this year, I think this is a great opportunity for us to bring out before the world the traditional Indian values, which were, don't want, don't waste, don't want. As Mahatma Gandhi said, there's enough in the world for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. Now, these are concepts that are integral to the Indian way of life and the Indian way of thinking. So, if you remember, when you went out a few years ago into the villages were clean. What has happened is plastic has overrun everything. So outside every village, you will find heaps of, plastic garbage.
Yeah.
Now, these things are things that can be controlled. It's very simple, to have to empower the district administration to tackle these issues. So tourism requires an all-round sort of, because this is about people. This industry is about people. Everything else is about, manufacturing, building, This industry is only about people. And if we can approach people and explain to them that this is the right way and this is the wrong way, then I think we have an opportunity here to take this message of conservation, of Janani, the earth, to the world. I mean, you respect your mother. That's what we've been taught to do. So the earth is your mother. Respect her. These are traditional Indian values. We have to use this G20 presidency to get these things out on a much, much broader stage and a much, much bigger scale. And I think we can start with our hill destinations, because they were really impacted during the COVID. I mean, you saw the traffic jams, it was impossible. So carrying capacity is something that is integral to sustainable tourism. The Joshimath landslides. It's because of unchecked development. You might say, yes, it sits on a seismic fault. Yes, it does. But all the more reason for us to be more careful in our planning and our execution of development. So we have to start somewhere. And I think the government has a very big role to play in this. Also, I'm not talking about greenwashing, because that's the four-letter word in this whole thing. But where you have hotels, destinations, tour operators who are genuinely practicing sustainable tenets and practices, there needs to be an incentivization from the government. We need, because someone has to offset that additional cost. So that's where we need the government to pitch in and formulate very, very clear, measurable, quantifiable guidelines and parameters, to have the industry create a body that monitors it in association with the government, and then to incentivize the people who actually practice this and make a difference. I think that's what needs to be done.
What a brilliant statement that you have made, Mr. Prakash. Tourism is people and people is tourism. I think this is one of the best statements that I have come across in the entire conversation, and it is truly, agreed from my side. I think the audience would also love to hear on the segment side as well. How in terms of the Indian outbound, the segments of weddings, cruise tourism, and MICE is contributing to the entire outbound scenario, Mr. Prakash. How do you see the scenario flourishing in total?
See, again, weddings and cruises and MICE. Cruising is still an infant in, a segment in India. I think less than 5% of Indian tourists actually currently go on cruises, but that means it has huge potential. We've also got Cordelia, who's home birthing now in India.
Yes.
I think that will introduce many more Indians at an affordable price to cruising. And once they've done that and discovered it, I think they will, graduate to the longer, more luxurious cruise liners. This cruising is fascinating. You see the world, or rather the world goes past you while you're having a great time. So cruising has huge potential. And I think we also need to up our port facilities so that more international cruise lines call on Indian ports. It needs to happen, as I said, in both directions, inbound, outbound. MICE, we have so many countries that have incentive packages for MICE. TAFI did this convention in Sarawak in Malaysian Borneo in September. We took almost 500 Indian travel agents and tour operators to a small town called Kuching in Sarawak, which the Indian trade doesn't know about. But it became viable because the Malaysian Tourism Board laid out the red carpet for us. So MICE requires, a certain amount of incentivization, which, I would have loved to have done a convention in India, but I couldn't get that kind of support from our state governments or our central government for that matter. So MICE will continue to go outside. We have a Geo World Center in Mumbai, which is an excellent convention center.
Yes.
But access, parking, all these issues. So we need, if we want to promote MICE within India and into India, we really have to up the game. Because even in a small town like Kuching, the Borneo Convention Center where we held the convention, TAFI convention, was state of the art. It was fully equipped. You could have 5,000 people connecting onto the internet simultaneously. That's the kind of infrastructure that you need for MICE. Weddings, we're a destination for weddings ourselves. Jodhpur, Udaipur, all these places, we attract a lot of weddings. Not only Indian weddings, but also overseas weddings.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've also had people who've done big events I was in Greece, and these people told me about this big Indian wedding with 500 people, and they were thrilled. So these are all segments, but it requires a certain amount of specialization. I mean, not everybody can do MICE, not everybody can do weddings, not everybody can even do domestic tourism.
Yeah.
So we need specialization. We need good people who A, are knowledgeable, B, know how to handle people, and C, think beyond just the ordinary. So these segments have huge potential, both for inbound and for outbound. And ideally, we'd like to see it happen both ways.
I think as you have concluded your statement saying that with new measures, I think we will be truly moving forward with new energy. I think that is what it is required in the entire industry: new perspectives, new energy, and new notions and new ways to get the entire tourism begin. I think I'm totally thrilled at the information exchanged, and I can't really thank you enough, Mr. Prakash, for bringing new perspectives to ideate within the industry for the T3 audience. It's truly so inspiring to learn from you every time. And me belonging to the new age segment of the industry, I think you are truly an inspiration. And it is always so great to have your presence around, and definitely the infectious positivity that you bring with you, and the ideas and the perspectives you open up to, I think that is brilliant. So any last message that you would like to convey to our T3 audience, Mr. Prakash?
Thank you, Koelika, for your kind words. It's always good to talk to you. The only thing I would like to say in conclusion is we are the big industry. 10% of global GDP is not small. We are bigger than automotive. We are bigger than many other industries. However, while the automotive industry, while the IT industry, while the construction industry, all of them have a lobby and a voice. We need to understand and realize the power that we have, the scale of this industry. We need to make our voice heard, because with a contribution of 10% of global GDP, we have a very, very large voice. We have a stake, and we need to make sure that our message gets across to our government, to global institutions, to the world at large, that tourism is here to stay, and tourism is a positive force for good, for the elimination of poverty, for the healing of wounds of conflict, and for just bringing people closer together so that we can work towards creating a more sustainable world, and at the end of the day, leave it a better place than we found it. That is the true purpose of tourism in my mind. And if each of us in the industry absorbs that and disseminates it, I think we can be a force to reckon with. That's it.
With this positive statement, I think we are at the end of this conversation. So I conclude this session today. Thank you, Mr. Prakash, for your time today, and also thanking the lovely audience joining the session. With this is Koelika Roy Chaudhary signing off, as we promised to get back with another detailed session, with another voice and another insightful conversation. Stay tuned for more. Thank you. Thank you so much.